Hello everyone, welcome to the week 5 PR4 tutorial. So as explained at the end of last week, we would be looking to make these two extra sections in here. So if we've done that, we should have quite a comprehensive page done at the moment. I'll just preview this, see how it looks like on the browser. So I've done a few little changes. I've done a few little things to the menu also that I can show you how to do today. I'm going to concentrate on making these two sections here, and we're going to look at a thing called flex order. So we can change the order of the columns in here or the items, and we're also going to look at a trick called flex grow. So we can make the columns larger or smaller by using this property. We're all going to look at also look at flex start and flex end, which will show you how to do it in the menu. If you want to move the menu from the left to right or the centre, we can also use this new flex property. And again, this one here, we're going to use this property called flex space between. So that's instead of using the margins and paddings, which is another interesting little trick. So just before we start, I'd like to point out this little website here. It's called CSS Tricks. If you go to there, you type in Flexbox, you can get a complete guide to the system that we're using to make these HTML and CSS pages. It breaks it down very, very simply, talks about the terminology used, etc. So a lot of the stuff we've already used, but just have a little look at that. It gives you a lot of examples you can just play around with and try your own designs. Gives you very, very good explanations. As I said, this flex grow here, that's how we do this part in here in the middle. So it's very, very simple. But nevertheless, we're going to get started, and at the end of this tutorial, I'll make something a wee bit more comprehensive again, and that will take us into week 6. Okay, thanks. So as I said, the first thing we're going to look at here is the flex justified content property. So this is really interesting if we want to align our media either left hand side of the page or the right hand side of the page, or perhaps even in the centre. So it shows us the properties we can use here. Space between, space around. As I said, that kind of compensates for the margins and the paddings. And what we're going to do just now is we're going to look at the previous way that we designed the menu. So what we've done with the menu before was we had display flex on the nav, and the items inside the nav are the buttons. So we've given that a margin of 300 pixels on the left hand side in order to spread it out. So basically each button has got a margin here, 300 pixels, which, as I said, makes them spread out quite evenly over the navigation bar. But what we'll do this time, we'll use this new property, and we can maybe just take that off just now, and we'll maybe just go with, say, 50, and we can see this working a little bit better. So on the nav, we've got display flex. So underneath that, we just put in justify content, and if I put in centre, we should see the buttons move to the centre of the nav, like so. Okay, so that's quite a nice little trick. Let's see what else we can do here. If we want to put it onto the left hand side, we can have flex start. It won't change so much because it's in the default position. If we want to change it across to the right hand side of the screen here, we can type in flex end, like so. Okay, so have a little play with that. Also, we can apply that to any other of the containers that we're using. So once you've made this page, try a few things out. Try and explore all the different functionality of flex. Now, to make the first section this week, I have started a new HTML page, just in order that we can see it a bit clearer. Okay, so all I've got here is I've got a new HTML page like so. I've made a CSS, attached it, and I've defined my site, saved it in the week 4. So for you guys, just go back, set up a new site. If you can't remember how to do it, just go back to the previous videos, but it's important that you learn how to do that because you'll have to do it in the exam. Okay, so the way that I've constructed this, I've got a div class column layout. So basically that is this big grey box here. And within that, I've got, so I can see that starting here, column layout starts here. And I've said this is the parent item, okay? So that kind of starts here, that div here, and the column layout ends down at the bottom there, okay? Then we have inside that, we've got 3 other div classes. So the div class, which I call main column, which holds the main item here. This one starts here, and it finishes there. So again, it's good practice. If we just go into this little bar here at the side of Dreamweaver, we can put a comment, and we can put in main column starts, and we can simply just cut and paste that, or don't even need to cut and paste it. We can put in another comment here, HTML comment, and we can say main column ends. So that's quite good to do that because we know exactly where we are, and we can also just separate with the putting some space in between your different divs. Okay, so we've got the sidebar 1, which is this one here, sidebar 2, which contains all of, let me see, I'll just select it here, it's easier to put, that's it there. Okay, so we've got one main div container, which is holding 1, 2, 3 other divs. So they're the items within the main parent. So what we'll do is we'll apply flex onto that, and we'll look at how we can use flex grow and flex order in order to create these nice layout examples here in this tutorial. Now let's have a look at our CSS page in order to style the layout of this column, or this container, sorry. So I've taken some of the properties out, and the only thing I've left in is the max width, which is 1300 pixels, and the background colour, which is that grey colour, as we can see there. So when we look back to the page that we had, we've got some space between the section here and the section there, space around the side, in order that we can read our text a little bit better. So we're going to go back to the week 5, and we'll put some of those properties in order that we can see it working a bit better. I'll show you the maximum width in a little second to see how that responds in the browser. But first thing we'll do is we'll put in some margins. And what we'll do is we'll put in 40 pixels. So this applies to the top. Okay, and as you should know from working in Code Academy, we can put all 4 properties for the top, right, bottom and left all in one line in our CSS. So 40s for the top, we can put auto in for the right, then we can put 0 at the bottom, and then auto again for the left. Okay, and if we now go to live, we can see what it's done there is it's given us 40 pixels at the top here, it's given us margin at the right auto, margin at left auto, and 0 at the bottom. Okay, so that here looks like that's the top margin, that's the right margin, this is a bottom margin, and that is the left margin. Okay, so that's quite a nice little trick. And again, it's good to look at it in the design view. If you just click on the tab there, click on the div itself, you can see physically all these different paddings and margins if you're using them. So that's quite nice. Okay, the next thing we'll do is we'll put in some padding in. So we'll put in, just underneath here, we'll put in padding. And the padding we'll put in, we'll just put in 20 pixels here. And then we'll put in 50 pixels. So this will be 20 for the top and bottom, and 50 pixels for the left and right. Okay, so we can see that there. Excuse me, so there's 20 pixels for the padding on the top and 20 pixels padding on the bottom, and then we have 50 pixels padding on the left and 50 pixels padding on the right. So again, we can condense all those properties into one line of the CSS, like so. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we can change the line height as well. We can make that look a little bit more attractive by changing what we call the line height of the text here, and we'll give that, say, 1.5, and that should make it a little bit bigger. Oh, try that again, 1.65. Do that preview. Yes, so it's giving us a little bit more space in between the text there, so it reads a little bit better. Now the last thing we'll do is we'll just put on the display flex, okay? So if all these properties are being controlled, all the items in here, the main item, item 1, item 2, if they're being controlled by the column layout, we can simply put in display and then flex, and that's us repositioned our items from left to right. Okay, so try that, finish that part, and maybe you might want to just work on your main site and you can just place it in below your previous ones, but just so I'm not running out of so much space, I'm just using a new HTML page like so. Okay, so once you've got that organised, we'll move on to the next step. So we'll look at this property now called flex scale. So basically what happens is flex is set a default to organise the distribution of space based upon the amount of content within the column itself. So because this main column here has more content than item 1 and item 2, it takes up more space. So by default, what we basically see here is flex 1 applied across all of these different columns. Okay. Now, if I was to give the main column 2 spaces, it makes it a lot bigger. Okay, like so. So that's essentially taking 2 columns. Item 1 is taking 1 column, and item 2 is taking 1 column. So, for example, we might give item 2 as well 2 columns. So that now splits it into 5 basic spaces. So flex 2 here for the main column, flex 2 for item 1, and sidebar 1, and 1 space or 1 column being used for sidebar 2. So we might also give this one 3. So this one is using 3 spaces, this one is using 2 spaces, and this one is using 1 space. So that's quite a nice way to distribute space, but just make sure you don't overcook it, because there's only so much space available. So what we'll do with this one is we'll just give it, at the moment we'll give it 3 spaces for the main item, and we'll give 1 space each to sidebar 1 and sidebar 2. Okay, and the next thing we'll do is we'll look at flex order. Now let's have a look at changing the position of the items within our flex display here. Now the way it sits just now, the main item's on the left, item 1 is in the middle, and item 2 is on the right hand side. But we can change that quite easily here if we use the flex order property. Now by default, every item is using order 1. Okay, so if I typed in here order and I give the main column, this one here, position 2, it means that it's going to go all the way to the end, like so. So it's going to use this the second position. So these are item 1, item 2 is using the default position of 1, and this will be the second space available. So even if we used 3, it would be the same. The only difference would be if we said that we wanted item 1, for example, to be in the second position. So if we wanted to put item 1 to where item 2 is, we could simply then, well, type in order, and we give sidebar, sorry, I'm on the wrong one, sidebar 1, order 2. And that means item 1 takes up the position 2, and the main item, as you see, is on position 3. Okay, so that's a nice little trick again as a way of distributing the media across your web page. So have a play around with that, and as I said, you might maybe use this for maybe your nav menu or maybe other parts within your web page. So now we go into our last part of the tutorial, is to create this section here, which is using the flex justify content space around, which is a really nice feature. It's a kind of a way to work with paddings and margins, but within the capacity of flex. So this is it here. This is what it will look like, as we've seen before. We'll just get back to our tutorial. So what I've done is I've just pasted some basic code in to start. I'm working in design view so we can see what we have here. So we basically have a div class, and I'm calling this one callouts container. So that is the parent here. So what I'll do is I'll put in a comment here, and we'll type in main container start. So this is going to be the parent, and that's going to hold the items of this div class, which we're going to use 3 times. So the main one starts here, so that's holding all the content in here. It's holding photo 1, photo 2, photo 3, which is basically this div there, that div there, and that div there. And this one is the end of the main container, or the callout container. So I'll put in another comment here, which will be main container end. Or I should actually just name that callout container. Container starts. Callout container ends. Okay. So we've got a div class callout, which we've got pasted in 3 times. Once here, starts there, ends here, starts there, ends there, second one, starts there, ends there, the third one. And on our CSS, we can control that by just having our dot callout properties referenced here. Now, as you can see as well, I've already made the properties, the dot callouts container, and I've already styled that a little bit with the max width, margin 40 pixels, auto 0, and auto, same as we did before up here. So that just means that we have 40 pixels on the top, auto on the left, 0 pixels on the bottom, and auto on the right. On the callout, once we have got some properties here, so we've got padding of 20 pixels. If you can maybe see that, let's still see, which is in between here. That's the padding. Sorry, the padding there 20 pixels, and then the margin on the bottom is 20 pixels. And as you can see, the background colour is that kind of pink there. So that just helps you visualise how we've actually made that there. Okay, so we'll move on and we'll give that some more styles in order to make it look like the final section. So let us now add those final properties to the CSS. Okay, so the first things first is we will put on the display flex property in order to make our items go from left to right across the screen. Okay, so we can also see here as well that because the photo 1 section, or that div tag here on the left, has got more content. So what we can then do is we can go back to what we previously learned, and we can say, down here, we can apply that to the property flex 1. And that will mean that everything will have the same amount of space attributed to it. So each column or each div tag will have the same amount of space allocated as we've used this flex 1. Okay. Now, what we naturally do before Flexbox is to put in a margin, for example, on the right hand side. So we'd maybe say margin something like 40 pixels. And that means we could get this space here between these different div tags. So if we just look at that here live, you can see how we've got 40 pixels here, 40 pixels there, but the problem is we've got the 40 pixels still remaining at the left hand side there. So we're just going to fix it. And the way that we'll do that is we'll use the width property and also use another property that we've not used yet, which is flex justify content and space between. So the first thing we'll do, we'll take away the flex 1 property there, and we'll type in width, and we'll type in 30%, like so. Close that, and we'll see when we hit the live button. So each box there is taking up 30%, and we have about 10% left over. Now I've just noticed that I need to take away the margin right as well. So that'll close it all up. So each box taking up 30%, sorry, and we have this 10% or so left over. Now the next step that we'll take here is we'll put in another property, and this one is box sizing. Oh, that's a mistake. And we'll put in border box, this one here. And this just helps us with our paddings and margins. It means we don't have to compensate if we put in, for example, we have a div tag that's 100 pixels wide, and we put a padding or a margin that's 20 pixels on the left hand side. That means we don't have to compensate by making then the div tag 80 pixels to accommodate the 20 pixels for the margin or the padding. So it's just another little Flexbox feature that helps simplify things for us. So what we'll do now is we'll go up to the callout container, and we'll type in justify content, like so. And we can see here that if we put in, for example, center, it's centered those 3 div tags, those 3 items, okay? And what we could also do is we could say, we could maybe try flex end. That means everything will move over to the right hand side of the screen, like so. And as we've done before, we can type in flex start. And that means that our content goes from left to right, like so. Now what we want to do here is we want to put the space back in between these areas here, and also to move it along so it's justified to the right and left hand sides accordingly. So we'll just take out the flex start, and we can put in here space between, and that gives us a Flexbox way to align the content and also to put the appropriate space in between the div tags. So we've covered quite a lot over the past tutorial there. We've looked at how we can align our content either on the right or on the left by using flex start or flex end, and also flex center. We've looked at the flex scale and how we can make some of our content travel across 2 columns or 3 columns. Also by using flex order, we can change the position. For example, box 3 we can make to go over to this side. What else have we done? We've looked at how we can use space between. which is another good alternative to using the margins and pannings. So for next week, what we'd like you to do is to try and create this section here. Okay, so just have a look back at all the previous things we've done. And as I said, look at the CSS Tricks, which is a really useful website to see how to make some of this stuff. And what I'd also like you to do is if we put that all together and we start to work with the hyperlinks. So what I've done here is I've created 2 extra pages. So this is my week 4 page. I've now created a design page. So I've made that link actually work to the design page, to a photography page, back to design, and back to home. Okay. So what we'd like you to do is to try, once you finish this page here, is if you create a new page called design and then you just customize it. You start to put in some images, you start to change the layout a little bit, change the colours, change the shape. And once you do that, you can save that page as a photography page. I'm only changing the text here to indicate that we've created a new page. So just try that and you can see how easily, if you create the structure for one page, you can very easily customize it to create 2 and 3, 4 pages, and you get a really good working website up very, very quickly. So I hope you're getting through the tutorials and you're quite liking the PR4 course. Please let me know in class if you need any more extra help, or if you want me to go over any of the stuff that we're doing in class here, just to refresh it. So this is week 5. We've got a couple more weeks, week 6, and then week 7 we'll do the the pre-exam. So we've kind of covered most of the stuff we're going to do. Next week we're just going to style the pages a little bit more, start looking at introducing some images and how they can respond. So if you can manage to do what we're doing this week and next week, you've pretty much covered most of the stuff we're going to do, and it's just a case of really practicing it. So just spend some hours in the MATLAB, trying your best, and let me know if you need any extra help. Absolutely no problem, and I will see you in class this week. Okay, bye bye.